There we go. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Ah, learning Maise Mechocham V'Tam. You know, about every single Dvar Torah, every single Maise, every single Dibur from the Maise. We have to say Ashreinu, Ashreinu, Ashreinu 1,000 times. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So let's like get to the end of the Maisa of the Tam the way that we learned last week, and let's just get over this and dive into what happened to the Chacham, the clever one. So without further ado, let's get here, and here we go. All right, just 1 second. Okay. So we said that the Tam was made governor of the whole hamlet, whatever you want to call it. And he says, being that when a person gets into a higher office, so he has a muzzle makes it wise. So the Tam received a bit of understanding, nevertheless he didn't use the wisdom at all. He simply ruled with the simplicity as before, and guided the state with simplicity, truth, and integrity. And no corruption was found in him. Regarding the management of state, Rabbeinu reveals here a secret. There's no need for great intellect and wisdom, just honesty and simplicity. It's only when you think that you are the one that making things happen, this is when you feel that you need craftiness, you need all these things. But there's no need for that. And when two people would come before him for judgment, he would say, "You are innocent, and you are guilty," and according to his true simplicity, without any guile or deceit. And so he managed everything truthfully, and he was highly beloved in the state. A small little aside regarding this. There is in New York, from the time when I lived there and still today, I'm not sure what the market is, but it used to be a very Hasidic business to sell cameras and photographic supplies. And it became such a hot commodity. First of all, there was one family that started a wholesale business, and the one of the sons of the originator that founded the business. So his daughter married a very technic man, and he bought him a little camera store on the second floor. He had to come up with these very, very narrow steps going to the second floor. And so he bought his son-in-law this business so he can... now, the son-in-law was, as I said, he was a very tichty guy. And his wife is also a very, so they bloomed, they became huge. It was called 47th Street Photo. It was huge. And the same thing, one of the another brother-in-law, another uncle, whatever, that each one opened up another camera store. There was another one in Borough Park. Anyhow, each and every one of them, was Baruch Hashem, was Matzliach, They supported one another. They made a support in a group, whatever it is. So Tzimsof, at the end, 47th Street Photo went out of business. The few other ones, some exist. I'm not even sure what exists, what doesn't. But one of the brother-in-laws was and is the most unlikely business owner you can imagine. He basically spends half a day. He sits down and learning. He sits down and learns half a day. And then he sort of like does, does the business a favor, and he goes there. He goes to work there, where he has this tiny little office, whatever it is. Basically, he was, at least at the time, and I remember, he was most like managing payroll and stuff like that, whatever. And because he's so tmimistic, you take a look at him, you can't even tell who is the boss and who are the workers. I remember the first time I went there, and I came there with some catalogs that I wanted to sell, whatever. And he came out and he started looking at them. And one of the men that brought me in went out of the room, and he started looking at it. So I knew this face. I says, you're here. I said, what are you doing here? So he says, I own the place. I was totally taken aback. I mean, he didn't look. I was actually worried that the other guy's going to come in and call him out. Well, you're looking at the stuff. And hey, he was the boss. Anyhow, so being that he is tmimistic like that, Kadosh Baruch Hu sent him a worker to manage the business, and that worker was very, 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 very tichtig and driven and business and the whole thing. So what do you think he did? He did the opposite. I mean, the boss. What do you think the boss did? He did the opposite of what anybody else would do. He saw his work. Instead of seeing, how much, handling with his worker, the worker was the mainstay of the business. So instead of handling, what will be your salary, whatever it is, he came to him and gave them half the business. Pashut, flat out, half the business is yours. That's it. Since that day, both he and the person who runs the business are huge. Their store is probably the biggest camera, video, whatever it is, store in the United States. Number one, no chochmas, only tmimus, pashut. Basically, what he does, I don't even know what he does in the business. All I know that he's giving tzedakahs, whatever it is, and and by no means he's nobody's fool. But he doesn't use the chochmas. He's not interested. He's here. He's learning Torah, whatever it is, and he comes to the business. He does the business a favor every once in a while. He does, and he from all the family, he's the most matzliach of them all because he was this most tmimistic and simple of them all. So let's get back to where we were before. Here we go. So, in writing on states, you don't need intellect, you don't need wisdom, just honesty and simplicity. Somebody came, for judgment, you're innocent, you're guilty, no chochmas, no, lawyerizing, whatever it is, straightforward. And he had advisors who truly loved him. Because of this love, one of them advised him, you certainly have to be summoned to come before the king, since he is already sent for you. And also the procedure is that the governor needs to come before the king. Therefore, even though you're very upright, and there's no corruption to be found in your leadership of the state, still it is the way of the king to digress in the course of his conversation to other topics, and speak about wisdom and other languages. Thus it would be fitting and a proper conduct for you to be able to respond to him. So it would be good for me to teach you wisdoms and languages. Here we're talking about the chokhmas of the clever one. So this was acceptable to the simple man. What could be the problem if I learn wisdom and languages, he said. Then he suddenly recalled that his friend, the clever one, had said it would be completely impossible for him to come to his level of wisdom and sophistication. And now he already achieved his level of wisdom. Nevertheless, despite the fact that he had come to become familiar with the wisdom, he did not make use of his wisdom at all. Rather, he conducted himself, everything with simplicity as before. The important thing is that it is a common thing for people who are into Yiddishkeit. And I know I'm using mechavona this kind of language that is, it sounds a little bit not dignified. One of these into Yiddishkeit. What are you talking about? But the point is that when a person is not close to a tzaddik amiti, it is very tempting for Yiddishkeit to become your thing. Actually, like your olam hazadik thing. Like somebody's a lawyer, this one is a doctor, and you're learning Torah. That's your, you have yeshiva, you have Rosh Yeshiva, you have Magid Shir, whatever it is that you're of, whatever it is, it's your thing. And usually the way that somebody can tell when what's going on with him is that Yiddishkeit has become my thing instead of my service of Hashem, is when I'm looking to look at things which are beyond me. At the time where, I start out, and especially something is about tshuva, whatever it is, you get on your horse, and the first thing, what do you want to learn? You want to learn Kabbalah, of course. And that's the most exotic of the studies. So it's like I remember I bought myself Zohar and all kinds of things. I didn't open it, but I bought it for myself, because I felt really special having it in my sforim trunk. Nevertheless, so people learn it, and it can become their claim to fame. This guy, he really knows Kabbalah, or he's unbelievable. He's a Shalfa London. He's unbelievable. When people go like this, it means that they go for the chokhmah before the maisim, before the tmimus. It is imperative for a person who wants his chokhmah to exist and to be sustainable. A person needs to start with tmimus and just do what needs to be done because it needs to be done, because that's what the king wants. That's what the Kodesh Baruch Hu wants. After you kept on doing it, then comes time for you to learn chokhmas, to learn more sophisticated learnings, more deeper learning, and esoteric learning, and so forth and so on. And actually, nobody is more a better example of that principle than Reb Chaim Kanievsky, Zechat Tzaddik Levracha. at the time when he was a bocher and a man, he wasn't considered to be anything, to shake whatever it is. He wasn't considered to be. He was always known to be a masmid. He sat and he learned, but there were people there, learners at the time, some learners that spoke about him is like at the time. He's like he doesn't really have it. He doesn't have what it takes. He's just a sharfer. Doesn't. It's not a London. He sits and he learns. He sat and learned betmimis. Just kept on learning. Zakol. That's it. Simsof, what happened? The people that were speaking, that were deriding him, he's very nice, very eldach, very masmid, but, don't, nothing special. Well, we saw what he became. He became the Godel Ador, the leader of this generation. And those that spoke about him, basically, became obscure. Why? Because Reb Chaim Kanievsky, Zeretz Al Livrocha, he went with Mimes. His father, Zeretz Al Livrocha, went with Mimes, the Stipler. He went with Mimes. The Chazon Ish went with Mimes. He went with Mimes. Once he went with Mimes, when you take a look at his Seder Limud, you see they also learned the Kabbalah, the Kisvei Arizal. The Stipler was an avid learner of Likutei Moharan, and they knew all that stuff, but only when they were ready for it. How did they know they were ready? Because, as I said, the king sent somebody. There is somebody who's oyev nam, and somebody really loves him, that says, listen. He doesn't tell him, listen, you should know these things because you'll be matzliach. Because, he says, because the king already sent for you, he's going to send for you again, and it's befitting you should know these things. So, okay, they started learning Kabbalah and all these things. So the Chochmah comes after the Tmimus. When a person is driving ahead, with simplicity, the Chochmah will come. The Chochmah will come because the Chochmah has to come. It doesn't matter how you start out. The Chochmah eventually comes. And as Rabbeinu says, Torah Aleph, you need to look at the Seichel that exists in everything. And the Seichel that exists in everything is, it's a Seder. In the beginning, you have to see Tmimis, Pshitis, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from me, what I need to do, what I need not to do, and continue. As one of the Talmidim of the Baal HaTanya said that when they were first Mekarev to the Baal HaTanya, the first thing that they heard, the first word that they heard from him, was Mashe Asur Asur, whatever is forbidden is forbidden, Umasha Mutar, and that which is allowed, Meyutar, is unnecessary. And it says that they sat and learned, I don't know, they were pondering it for 2 years or 4 years or whatever it is, and only then they came to Yechidus and started whatever it is that they started to hear in Chassidus and everything, until they ponder. Simple. First of all, what's forbidden is forbidden, and that just because it is allowed, it doesn't mean that it's necessary. Fakert. Just that which is allowed, which is not a must, is allowed, is miyutar. Mutar miyutar. It's ibrik. It's not necessary. Then comes the time when you need chokhmah. Then comes the time when you go, whatever. You're doing everything because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it. So let's go back. So once he sees that, he says, here, I already have that. But how did he know? Because he came already with a bedrock of Tmimis, of Pshitas. He was already the governor. Governor means that he's already controlling his body, his thoughts, his mouth. He is, and then at that particular point in time, you can learn Chochmas, and they're not going to topple you. So let's take a quick look and go weiter in our learning. And he says, how, you see, I came already to the Madrega that my friend was. So after this, the king sent for the simple governor to come to him. And he traveled to him, and the king spoke with the simple one at first about running the state. And the king was very, very pleased because he saw that he was leading with integrity and great truth, without any guile or deceit. That's the first thing. The first thing is not how smart you are. It's not, but the first thing is, how do you conduct yourself? Is it Yoshadik? Is it Tmimisdik? The state is run properly. You're doing what you need to do. Don't be so smart. Going to Allah, the Poskim said this and this. I can get away with this. I get away. First of all, straight. Everything without, no guile, no deceit. Straightforward. Then the king began to discuss wisdom and languages. Okay? Now the king is talking wisdom and languages. We're talking about, these are kavanas, these are divrei chochma. Here we're talking about, higher madregas. And the simple one answered him correctly, winning greater and greater favor in the eyes of the king. The king say, I see that he is so wise, yet he runs things with such simplicity. This was very, very good in the eyes of the king. And the king appointed him to be prime minister over all the ministers. He designated for him a special place where he would reside, and commanded that the lovely, magnificent structures be built for him. And he gave him a letter confirming his appointment as prime minister. And so it was that they built him buildings in the place that the king designated, and he went and accepted his full authority. Here we are talking about a person that leads off with simplicity, with tmimus, and then he acquires wisdom. The king loves him because the ultimate shleimus, the ultimate perfection, is when simplicity and wisdom coincide. It says, oiz v'hader levusha v'tischak leyom achron. Shlomo HaMelech says in Shir HaShirim, oiz v'hader levusha, not Shir HaShirim, sorry, that in Mishlei, I think, Mishlei Koheles, anyhow, so oiz v'hader levusha v'tischak leyom achron. It says that when strength and splendor is her garment, v'tischak leyom achron, and the idea of the last day on earth is it's like she laughed at it. I mean, it's like she was happy for it. It was so the meaning for it is that there is two aspects to a person. One of them is called oiz. That's strength. This denotes shmiras bris kodesh. That's holiness. That's purity. That's tmimus. No chochmas. And then hadar means Torah. Torah is a hadar. There's a hadar Torah. So when a person leaves this world, what happens is that he is cloaked, his neshama is cloaked with the malbushim, the garments that he has acquired in this life. Now, the Mazikim, they try to tear off the garments of that person. So the garments, have to be, first of all, very strong, like a garment made of sackcloth. This is a very rough cloth, but it's very strong. Denim, dungarees. So that's hard. They can't tear it off. But it's not derech eretz. You cannot come to the king wearing sackcloth. To the Shara Melech, you have to come with malbushim of splendor, which means that just being holy is not enough. To come to Shara Melech, you also need Torah, is Hadar. If the only thing that the person has is just Torah, it's just Hadar, but he doesn't have Kedusha, he has beautiful clothing, but they are very easily being torn off of him by the Mazikim Olim, because they're very flimsy. If he has just Malbushim of Kedusha, which is the main thing, they can tear off of him, but he cannot come to the Melech, because he needs Oiz v'Hadar Levusha. When the Malbushim have both qualities of Oiz, of Kedusha, of purity, and Hadar, and Torah, then the last day is not a threat. The last day is just finally going out the door, and coming to wherever it is that you actually need to come to. And for somebody that has Oiz v'Hadar, the Yom Achron is finally getting to where one needs to get. So, v'tischach lo Yom Achron, it's a simcha. Tov me'oid ze amavis, as they say. So he said that the king said he's so wise and he runs with such simplicity. Oiz v'Hadar levusha, they give him a special place. And ksav ismanos, the letter of designation. That the letter of designation speaks of the places, that the choisam that he gave him. It's those walls, these houses, the palaces, whatever that he ordered, is a very special thing, which is called choisam. We learned this in Torah Chaf Beis. It's choisam b'toch choisam, a seal within a seal. That the choisam is the way that all the judgments are being ameliorated. Because it's a choisam l'chaim, when a person Rosh Hashanah, he says Shana Tova Tikosam Tichosam the altar. What is the Tichosam? Tichosam, I understand. Okay, you're written for life. What is Tichosam? What is the seal does? What a seal does, it gives protection to the writing. It affixes it, so it has a kiyum. When a Kodesh Baruch Hu likes someone, all his maisim are sealed for life. And milamala, mishamayim, they're already kaveh to him that everything he does will go l'chaim. Now this is very important, because even if that person chas v'chalila, listen to this good, even if this person chas v'chalila will falter and will sin, he will awaken again, he'll be mis'er l'tshuva, and everything will become good. This is a tremendous wall and protection for a person from all the mekatrikim, from all the prosecutors and all the mazikim. When he gave him a ksav ismanos, he gave him a document, of that he is, he is the prime minister. The ksav, that written document, is the seichel hakoilel that is mamtik ol tzimtzumim. We spoke about quite a few times before. When a person is in a mess, in a quagmire, in distress, rather. When a person is in distress, it's because there is not enough, whatever he's doing, there's not enough seichel to govern whatever it is that he's doing. Like somebody who is not running his household properly, and therefore he gets into debt, and so forth and so on. So what he needs a higher seichel. And that higher seichel is somebody that knows how to handle, finances, household finances. So we say, with this sit down, he shows him reality, take receipts for everything, whatever it is, and after a month, let's review the receipts, let's see how much money you make, how much money you spend. And then we can make, let's take a look at your year. Certain times of the year you need to spend more money, certain times of the year you need to spend less money. Take a look at what's going on here. And like this, you get, so this seichel, that seichel was mamtik the problem and the distress that person in debt was in. So we see that the seichel is the place where the judgments is when two things don't coincide, and as a result things get out of hand and they spoil. This is pshat dinim. So when you have a seichel is mamtik, and so forth and so on. Every madrega, the higher the madrega is, it needs a higher seichel, and different kind of situations, different kind of distress, of dinim, require different seichel. Seichel prati, a very specific seichel. When something in the car is not right, you need the seichel of the mechanic. Maybe, the mechanic in and on himself, is not somebody who knows as much as you do about, I don't know how many things, but about what's the right thing to do for your car. He has the seichel that is needed. So that seichel is a private seichel that is mamtik, the din that has to do with your car. And once that seichel is applied to the car can run properly. The same thing happens now. The thing is that there is a seichel hakoilel. There is a seichel that includes all the seichel. And that seichel hakoilel is also called tikkun hakloli. That seichel is the overall remedy for all the problems, for all the distresses of the world. It's called seichel hakoilel, that sweetens all the judgments, all the tzimtzumim. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives that seichel hakoilel to a person, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person knows everything that needs to be done at that particular point in time, and about everything. I'm sure that Rabbi Yaakov Meir Shechter doesn't know how to fix cars, and that Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky could not, do a tooth filling to somebody. It's not necessary. That's not what we're talking about. A seichel hakoilel means that when a Kadosh Baruch Hu gives that kind of wisdom to a person, the person gets koyach to manage everything b'simcha, without anger, without nerves. And this is the main power of leadership that they give to a person b'shamayim. The power to lead the world, b'yishuv hadas, to find eitzah, true eitzah for everything. So, and not to falter into dinim and anger and all these kind of things. So you shouldn't be b'vchinas a rabbonus mekaberes ba'aleya. That the fact that you become the chief and the leader only makes things worse for you. And it says, when a person becomes a leader, it finishes them all. As we saw, that the Ma'aseh Miberge Va'oni, there's also of Ksav, he got the Ksav of gold, It says this is the Torah. Kodesh Baruch Hu gives Am Yisrael Memshala in the entire world. So this is the true Memshala. Tzaddikim have true Memshala. The Kiviyachol have Memshala, even Kiviyachol on Kodesh Baruch Hu himself too. Moed Katan, the Gemara says, I control the world, I run the world, and who controls me? Tzaddikim. So I make a gzeira, I make a decree. Tzaddikim, they cancel it. And what is the main memshal of the tzaddikim? As we learn the Kutei Moharan, is to be mashpia and to imbue the nefashos Yisrael, even when it is decreed for Am Yisrael to fall off the derech, to falter. The tzaddikim have koyach to put them back on their feet and make them tshuva again. It says he'll be a minister and all the ministers. He says, what does it mean? Is that from now on, tmimis is the most important thing. Until now, as we said before, only the treasury minister was a tam. From now on, being that the simple man, the simpleton, has combined both Tmimis and Chochmah together, now the most important condition for leadership became Tmimis. Now Tmimis reigns supreme, he becomes the prime minister. Okay, this is what we have learned so far up to now. Let's take a little bit of a sojourn, as it were, into the what is happening with the clever one. Now, when the letter from the king arrived to the clever one, as they say, meanwhile back at the ranch, so he, the clever one, told the clever person who brought it, wait, stay the night here. We'll discuss and make a decision. Do you remember how the journey started with the simpleton? The messenger came and he said, I have a letter from the king. The first thing the simple man said, what's written in it? So the messenger said, I'll tell you. It says the king wants you to come. Says, you're not joking? Says, no. He got up, immediately left, got into the covered wagon, found the clothes, became a governor, learned what he learned, went to the king, became the prime minister, and all the ministers. The clever one, the letter comes to him. First thing he says to the clever messenger came to him, wait. Stay the night here, and we'll discuss and make a decision. And if you remember of course you remember. Balak and Bilam. The first thing, the Zikni, Midian, Moav and Midian come to Bilam and say, come to us. He says, sleep the night. In the morning, we'll see what Hashem says to me. One of the important Nekudas Rabbeinu told us, you definitely need to be calculated in thinking about everything that you do. Should you do it? Shouldn't you do it? It's the right thing to do, the wrong thing to do. Nevertheless, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls you, you get up and you go. Rabbeinu says that even if you're walking in the market, you walk in the street, you're walking in the street, the Merkaz, whatever it is, suddenly you have Isairus, or in Brachfeld, or wherever, suddenly you have Isairus. Rabbeinu says, stop where you are and speak to HaKadosh. In other words, don't even walk another step. Because that thought that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent to your mind to speak to him and ask to him, it has to do also not only with the time, but also where you are. So if you will continue walking, you may lose this dibur to Kodesh Baruch Hu. Don't do it. It comes to you, stop on the spot. Speak to Kodesh Baruch Hu. Right then and there. The main thing, as we learned in Motzei Shabbos and Sichas Aran, that person needs to scream to HaKadosh Baruch Hu at the top of his lungs, like somebody who's hanging by his fingertips to a wall above the sea. That the person is in such a dire danger at all times. And time is flowing through, between our fingers like quicksand, like sand, in an hourglass. Kadosh Baruch Hu calls you, chop it, go. That kind of immediacy is the essence of Tmimus. Kadosh Baruch Hu calls you, go. You go to a shir, and the shir suddenly says something that really awakens you something, something. There, act on it, on the spot. Do something about it. The mother of all perdition, as it were, is wait. Let's think about it. The king wants to see me. Well, I'm not really ready right now. I'm not. I don't feel up to it. That's the beginning of the fall. So, B'ezrat Hashem, we will continue next Monday. We'll go deeper into what not to do from the Meisim of the Clever One. It's very, very important because it really permeates so many corners in our own lives that we need to, it's like a soldier that is being, is trained, to know what to expect, what kind of tactics to do, and whatever it is, what the enemy is likely to do. So, Be'ezrat Hashem, we will meet again in a couple of days. Be'ezrat Hashem will be Wednesday night. We will learn, Be'ezrat Hashem, continue Torah Chav Gimel, and Be'ezrat Hashem, and Thursday will be Torah Tes, Shabbos, Sichas Be'ezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should bench us, each and every one of us, with health and with wealth, and of course with Yos Shemayim, with Torah, and Asach Naches, and Be'ezrat Hashem, all those who need Yeshua in any way, shape, or form, that the Kodesh Baruch Hu sent it to us. Be'ezrat Hashem will be zorchet to see B'vias Mashiach Tzidkenu, B'imheiro, B'yomeinu, Amen.